Okay, everyone, we move on now to a lesson called true bearing. And before we even start, I want to point your attention to the very first sentence there. So it goes, true bearing in navigation, and it's not amp making, it's map making. Okay, so please make that little correction, but I'm sure you did that yourself. It says here, so in navigation and map making, people often measure angles from the vertical or north. This angle, referred to as true north, is measured in a clockwise direction from a line pointing at north. Straight north has a bearing of 0 degrees. So what we're doing here, everybody, is we're assigning angles, an angle measurement to direction. So what you can say here is, if you look at this kind of this directional guide to the right, if something was heading straight north, that means it would be heading on a bearing of 0 degrees. Well, this is kind of like saying, so if you look here, if I draw this out, so north will be at the top, this will be east, this will be south, and this will be west. Now, if you think of it here, this is, I can make a complete circle. So how many degrees is that? A complete circle, and one that I draw properly, is 360 degrees. Furthermore, sorry, I said to put this back in. If you take that 360 degrees, we can divide it into 4 equal sections. So as we know, north is 0 degrees. If you come all the way around, you do a full circle, and you're back at 360. If you do, and oh, wait a minute. What kind of lines do we have here? We have straight up and down, and we have sideways. So we have vertical lines and horizontal lines. Those are perpendicular. We also know that whenever those occur, we have 90-degree angles. Now what I'm saying is we can use that to kind of further our understanding. So if you're going straight north, you are on a bearing of 90 degrees. You always go in a clockwise direction. So if you were going straight east, how many degrees are you going? Well, if this is 0, and I just showed you here, this is 90 degrees, east must be 90 degrees. If I made you go straight south, what bearing are you on? Well, heck, we have another 90-degree angle right here. So if this is 90, well, this is 90 more degrees, so south is 180. If you carry on that logic, if you were to go 90 more degrees in a clockwise direction, that would be west at 270 and back up to 360. So one thing that might really benefit you here is just filling in some of these important numbers. And you can use that with the questions that you have to practice with. So if I kind of zoom in here just a little bit, I'll go back to my pen. So please keep in mind, north is 0 degrees. We've established that this is vertical, this is horizontal. So this is a span of 90 degrees. So we know that east is at 90 degrees. If you were to travel 90 more degrees, you'd be on a bearing south, or 180. If you continue with that logic, 90 more degrees, west will be 270 degrees. Now, what the heck about these measurements on the inside? Well, please keep in mind, remember, we talked about the referent angles that you have to know. What do you call the angle that's right in between? So if I put this, that's 90 degrees. What about the angle that goes right in the middle of that? Well, that's a 45-degree angle. So now you know, if you look here at northeast, that's going to be a 45-degree angle. We've gone 45 degrees from 0, okay? If you follow that even further, if you look down here at southeast, well, southeast is in the middle of east and south. So this gives you a 90-degree angle, as you can see right here. Southeast is in the middle of that. So how many degrees is it to move along this span right here? If you want to move the full way, it's 90. But if you want to move only half of that way, it is 45 degrees. So like I said, this is 90. But if you want to go halfway, that's only 45 degrees, because 45 degrees is half of 90. So what you have to do is don't put southeast as 45 degrees. That's wrong. What you actually have to do is you have to think to yourself, okay, east was 90 degrees. If I go to southeast, I have gone 45 more degrees. 90 plus 45 is 135. Now, southwest, see if you can challenge yourself. What would southwest be? If you're not quite sure, think to yourself, well, south is 180 degrees, and southwest is 45 degrees along here. Because remember, from 180 to 270, that's a full 90, but we're only going halfway. So you must add 45 degrees to get to southwest, and that should be, 225 degrees. And if you follow this logic, again, northwest, as you can see, is in between 270 and back up to 360. So if you want to get your northwest, you take 270 and you add, okay, if you want to get here to northwest, you have to add 45 degrees. So 270 plus 45, so that's 5. That's going to give you 11, 315 degrees. Okay, so to recap, let's do this really, really quick, because I know I'm not changing. I'm just making it cleaner for myself. Please don't erase anything on your end. I just want to show you the main ones here again. So remember, north 0, east 90, south 180, west 270. Then we have the halfway marks. This is going to be 45, okay? This right here is going to be 135. Now, then, if you have 180, you have to add 45 more degrees. That should give you 225. And then you go up here, this is going to be 315. Now, it does say here to you in this, on your note package right here, okay, the space between each of these measures on, and I'll show this to you, is 22.5 degrees. So for example, let's say they wanted to know the bearing of east-northeast. Well, how the heck would you get that? Well, as you can see, we know that northeast is 45. So how many more degrees? It says every one of these notches is 22.5 degrees more than the last one. So if you wanted to figure out what bearing east-northeast is on, I'll just make a little cleaner box down here. What you would have to do is you'd go 45 plus 22.5, and that will give you 67.5 degrees. So that means that east-northeast is on a bearing of 67.5 degrees. Furthermore, okay, keep in mind that 22.5 is very, very important. And there are other ways we could even use subtraction, but I'll let you kind of figure that out. Let's just pretend I wanted to do, let's go with south-southwest. How would you figure that out? Well, we know that south is 180 degrees. We also know the bearing between each degrees is 22.5. So you'd simply go 180 plus 22.5. You can use a calculator for this if you want, but that will give you 202.5 degrees. So now we're going to give you some practice with this. So please keep in mind the main ones. You know north, east, south, west. You know the bearings. You know in between are all measurements of multiples of that 45. And I hope you have enough now to understand how to calculate the bearing even in between those main numbers. Have some practice, and believe me, this is math that is repeatable, and those values will never change. Best of luck.